It's time for Reason.
When they do it, they have a justification. When we do it, then it's a terrible, horrible thing because we have to have different standards for different people based on their ideology, because we have to have that grace built into the progressive mindset as opposed to a conservative where you're already terrible, so if you just do that, then you're just exposing who you really are. It doesn't matter that a progressive is actually a very hateful, bitter individual. When they lash out, then it's justified and it's actually okay.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting, KGPT TV, channel 2610. What up? Welcome in. It is a Tuesday, a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday, the way we love to roll on the second day, really the greatest day of the entire week, as we are trying to wake up, we're trying to get rolling, trying to figure out what to do for the day. You don't quite see the end of the tunnel yet, but yet it's coming. Today's the day that we carpe diem all over this daggone place. We have a great time, and we have a little fun in the process of doing it. Welcome in, 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, we are up on Facebook Live right now. We are on the TuneIn app. We are just about everywhere that you need to be in order to be able to catch us. Like it, share it on Facebook Live. Please do. We do appreciate that very much. So we got a lot to get to today. Coming up at 7:30. Our Wichita City Council member, Brian Fry, he'll be joining us, as he usually does on a Tuesday. Plus, in the 8 o'clock hour, we're going to have a guest from the Independent Women's Institute. We've talked to them before. Look forward to getting them back on the show today. So it's going to be a great show, plus a lot of different shenanigans happening in Kansas. So we got a lot to get to today and a lot to touch on. But first, I want to ask you, show of hands, how many people are addicted to their phones? Now, I got to say, I have a hard time with addiction. I know a lot of people struggle with addiction. I have a hard time because I honestly have never been really addicted, at least that I know of. I've never really been addicted to anything other than, like, politics. I mean, I'd have adult beverages. I've smoked cigars before. I've smoked cigarettes a little bit, but those were kind of nasty. But other than that, I mean, I really haven't been addicted to anything. But so many people nowadays are addicted to their phones. Addicted to their smartphone because they're always on there. I mean, you watch them. Go to a restaurant. Go to a get-together. Go to a meeting. Go to a concert even. And everybody's up there. You go to a rock concert. Everybody's up headbanging. The fire's going. The guitar riffs are going. Everybody's jumping up and headbanging. And then you always see some of them right in the middle of the crowd that are sitting there with their screens right in their face. And some of them will they'll be taking pictures. Some will be tweeting, some will be whatever, but they're always addicted to their phone. You will never see them without their phone, and I just don't understand it. Now, I've told you this before, unfortunately, I have to have the smartphone, for work, and many people do have to have it for work, and just let it sit there for 30 minutes and see how many times the nice little email notification goes off on your phone. It's a little ridiculous, and if I didn't have to do that, I would be more than happy to set my phone down, walk away, and never have to worry about it again. But between show prep that I'm doing all the time and different news articles that pop up to me, and then email and different things that I have to do, and I actually have the ability that when I'm away from the studio, if there's a problem with the station for whatever reason, I'm able to log into the station's operating system through my phone, and I can get things back on the air, and I can fix things, and I can do that stuff. And unfortunately, that's part of the job to where I'm always having to monitor in that sense. And a lot of people have to do that for work. But let's go to the younger generation for just a second, just for some of the kids, and see how many of them actually can live without their phones. It's unbelievable. I think I told you this story, but a few months ago, my wife and I, we were actually having a date night. We were out at a restaurant. We were having a good time. We had a little corner booth so we could kind of see the entire room, and we were just having a great time, just chatting and eating and having a few drinks. And it was right, I want to say it was last fall, because I think it was right around like homecoming time, because then there was a few high school students that are all dressed up for their homecoming or some kind of really big dance or something, and they were out to dinner, and they were having their little dates, and it was really cute, and we were just kind of watching them because, look how cute the young kids are actually, back in the day when we used to do that, because my wife and I, we were high school sweethearts, and we remember that, so we were kind of reminiscing. But it was the most entertaining event of the entire night. Was sitting there in the corner booth, sitting at a restaurant, and watching these two kids that sat down at one of the tables right in front of us there almost, and they were so nervous that they barely even talked to each other. They sat down, and then they put their phones in front of their face, and they were texting the whole time. It took them halfway through dinner time before they even spoke to each other, really. They kind of looked at each other a little bit, and then they had up the menus up above their face to cover their face, and then they had their phones, and then like one would go to the bathroom, and then they come back, and then they kind of small chat a little bit, and then they look back at their phones. And it really took them until the food got there, and they were halfway done eating before they actually started really having a conversation while they were still in front of their phones. And I just sat there, and when we went to high school, and I mean, look, I'm not that terribly old, but even when I was in school, we didn't have the whole cell phone issue, really. Not as much, or we had at least the flip phone to where you had to push the button numerous times to actually get the right text out there that you wanted to. So it was a pain in the butt. So unless you actually really had something important to do, you didn't text. And we didn't have that crutch to be able to be on a date and try to avoid your date the entire time because you actually had the phone. So nowadays, apparently, there's an addiction to our phones. And I can totally see it, and it's really sad. So what are we doing about it? Well, the reason I bring this up is because it's really ironic that when we have an addiction nowadays, when we have a problem with people using their phone too much, what do? We should have the red flag come up and say, wait a second, yeah, there's a little bit of an addiction here. People are getting obsessed with their phones. They're not really socializing a whole lot. They're a little bit socially awkward now because they're used to sending a message through Twitter as opposed to talking about it face to face. We have a little bit of a problem here. Let's start focusing on teaching people how to actually be socially acceptable again. Instead of that, what do? We go to the source of the phone and we blame the phone company, like Apple, for example, or Samsung, or whatever other companies there are, and we blame them for the addiction to the phone and want them to put restrictions on their own products. I'm not kidding. This is according to the latest tech news. Apple unveils ways to help you limit your iPhone usage. Apple, on Monday, ended up unveiled new controls to help people curb the amount of time spent on their iPhones and iPads, as well as allowing parents to remotely track and limit their children's use of those devices, a response to growing societal concern that adults and children are too focused on their phones. The company said a new app will be released in September called Screen Time, and it will prevent users it will provide them with weekly reports of the app that they use and allow them to set time limits for their use of those apps. Parents will be able to use the system to remotely monitor the apps for their children use and limit their time on the devices. So instead of the parents telling their children, hey, that's enough of the phone, you're going to set the phone down when we're actually having dinner, you're going to put the phone away when you're doing homework, you're not going to be chatting with your friends all the time online, you really need to stop playing that online game, you're going to put the phone down, and I'm going to be the parent and tell you to do so. Instead of doing that, the parents are going to Apple and saying, you need to create an app on your own product to limit the usage of your product for the people that are actually using your product. Can you please tell me how this makes any sense again? Now, this show is called The Voice of Reason. We try and use common sense and reason when we actually talk about some of these issues. But please tell me how that makes sense. 316-721-8255. Is this where it's come to now? Because now the parents are not very parental in telling their children what they can and cannot do. They feel like they are very uncomfortable taking their phones away from their children. So instead, they have to go to Apple and say, please create an app that limits the screen time of what the children are allowed to do, and then I can monitor it. Come on. Is this not the ultimate, please take the responsibility off of my hands because I don't want to have to do it myself? The investors of Apple are the ones that actually discuss this with preventative distractions. Apple has been under pressure for years to address these issues with addicted individuals on the iPhone. In January, the company received a letter from different investors along with the California State Teachers Retirement System. Oh, shocker. California's nice little unionized organizations that understand that responsibility does not lie in the hands of the parents, but in the hands of the government turning to Apple, writing letters, which control, by the way, $2 billion of Apple shares. The letter urged the tech giant to develop new software tools that would help parents control and limit phone use more easily and to study the impact of overuse on mental health. This has been an ongoing effort, according to some. Writing in review by the Wall Street Journal, ethical leadership will create long-term stock value. So it's up to the company to create apps to limit the use of the young children when it comes to the phone, so that way we don't create phone addiction. And when they do that, then it will be the long-term investment in the long-term stock value of Apple, apparently, if Apple ends up creating the app to limit the use of the phone by their consumers, as opposed to the parents actually having the responsibility to tell their children, sorry, you're not going to use your phone all day long. It's crazy how we take the responsibility out of the home, isn't it? 316-721-8255. I found that kind of interesting. As I've told you many times before, my daughter will not be receiving a phone in any way, shape, or form until she's 18 and starts driving. And even then, she'll be getting a flip phone that I will provide her. And if she wants anything more than that, then she can get a job and pay for it herself. And then it's up to her to be able to do whatever she wants to with it. That's the way I got it, and I don't care. I really don't care that technology is advancing now. I really don't care that the 4 and 5-year-olds are walking to school with their iPhones and their iPads now, and they're playing their games with their little earbuds in their heads. Ain't going to happen with my daughter. Sorry. I know a lot of people have disagreed with me on that one as well, but I don't really care. I really don't really care. It makes no difference to me. That's the way it's going to be, because she's not going to be addicted to the phone, and she's going to have limited access when she does get a phone. And it's really going to be, hey, Dad, we're coming back from the sporting event. I'm on my way just to let you know we're almost there. Okay. Great. That's about the extent of what her phone usage is actually going to be. 18 minutes past the hour. We got a lot of fun stuff to get to today, but a great way to open it up today. The phone addiction. Do you see the young generation, or are you yourself addicted to your phone, addicted to some of the apps on the phone, whether it's games, whether it's the work-related? And is it your responsibility as the individual, your responsibility as the parent, your responsibility as the private individual to limit your usage on the phone? Or should we be turning to the company and saying, you created an addictive type of product, you need to limit the exposure that I'm allowed to have on it, because I cannot control myself. I shouldn't have to control myself, so you should have to control myself for me, because that totally makes a whole lot of sense. 18 minutes past the hour. This is The Voice of Reason on a #Patriotic Tuesday. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
25 minutes past the hour. Welcome into a #Patriotic Tuesday. Living the dream, my friends. That's the way we roll. Waking you up the right way. Trying to get you pumped up, excited. Pretty soon you're going to feel like Arnold Schwarzenegger, needing to go to the gym at 6 a.m. And if you do, then kudos to you, because I don't know how you do that. Welcome in. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phone tier line at number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, it's Deacon.
Deacon, what's happening, brother?
Hey, it's a beautiful day. It's already been interesting.
Making it happen. Yeah. You guys up and at 'em early. I don't know how you do it, my friend.
First thing this morning, I had to break into my car because I locked my keys in. That was fun.
Well, there you go. That's a great way to start the day.
Right?
Yeah.
No, I was calling about the screen addiction thing you're talking about.
Yes.
My 10-year-old, he's out of school for the summer. And my wife and I both work, so I broke down and I bought him a phone. So that way I could get in touch with him. I don't have a house phone.
Sure.
And if you have Google on your phone, then you can set when the phone turn, the apps turn off. You can make phone calls and you can text, but you can't, play on the apps or watch videos or listen to music or any of that. Or you can set an amount of time that the kid can be on the phone. It's helpful. I hate that I have to use it, but it's helpful.
That's interesting. Now, what about just getting like a simple flip phone so that way that stuff's not even on there?
The flip phones nowadays, I don't know. Where I went to go get his phone, they didn't even have any.
They don't even have any as an option anymore?
No, not where I went to go get his phone. They may have had some
Interesting.
somewhere, but
Wow.
they didn't. The store I went in to get his phone, they didn't even have any flip phones.
Wow. Well, that's interesting. Well, so you can actually turn off by Google, you can actually turn off the apps at certain times, so that way they're only accessible at certain times, and then the rest of the time it's really just phone calling and texting.
Right, it's called Google Family. My wife and I, we're the parents on the account. We have my son on the account, and excuse me, sorry about that. And I can look and see where his phone is. If he's got his phone with him, I know where he is. I know what he's doing. I can turn it off and on with the push of a button.
Interesting. I had no idea that you could do that. Now, what kind of phone is it? An Apple?
No, I don't do Apple. That's no.
I don't go down that road for Apple. Okay, so this may be equivalent then, maybe that's why some of the companies or the investors and some of the parents are asking about an app like that for Apple, because maybe since Google has this one, Google Family, to be able to turn it off, maybe Apple doesn't have anything comparable to it. So this is kind of their comparison to that, of being able to turn off those apps when the head of the family wants to go onto the phone to be able to turn it off for their kids. So I don't know, maybe that's a comparison there. But again, do you think that the responsibility of the children using the apps, when it really comes down to that, is that you saying to your kid, hey, you're not allowed to use the app 24 hours a day. I don't want you on there. I don't want you video Skyping with a whole bunch of crazy people. I don't want you playing games all day long. I want you really focused on things outside of the phone. Or is it saying, hey, company, come on, let's create an app here so that way I can turn it off when I want it to. So that way my kid only has limited access.
Oh no, me and my wife are raising my children, not the government, not companies.
Exactly.
It's me and my wife. We take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And there's the computer, the phone. It's a pocket computer with a phone app on it. That's all it is.
And it drives me nuts.
Oh, really? And they have access to anything on the internet. I mean, anything. Mm-hmm. And I don't want my 10-year-old having access to pornography.
Sure.
So I can look and make sure that he doesn't access certain sites, and I can make sure that if he goes to download something, I have the code to download it. He has to ask me,
sure.
Hey, Dad, can I download this game?
Sure.
So it's all on me and my wife. But there's another problem. When was the last time you went out to eat and there wasn't a screen on every wall in the restaurant?
That's true. You go to a restaurant and they got 20 different TVs all over the place, so that way you can watch all the sporting events, you can watch the news, you can watch a movie, you can watch whatever while you're actually having dinner. And again, that just feeds right into it of the intimacy of you and the spouse if you're going out for a date night sort of thing. And we're gonna have a date night, but don't bother me, honey. The game's on.
Right. See, when we eat dinner at the house, phones are in another room. TV is not turned on. We sit down at the table and we eat as a family. Mm-hmm. If I want to take my family out to eat, I don't want to have to fight with a TV.
That's true. That's a great point. I love it. I appreciate the call, Deacon, very much so, my friend. You're absolutely right. Now, I mean, there are some games that are entertaining. I mean, right now, I do have to admit, I am playing a Star Wars game on my phone, but it literally takes like 10 minutes out of my day just to do the daily activities, and then I just kind of let it sit. I'm not addicted to it. There are those games that are entertaining, but again, when you're having that dinner, I love it. Family time, put the phones away, turn the TV off. I mean, even myself, we got to work on that once in a while. Got to make it better, my friends. It's family time, not TV time. Bottom of the hour news coming up. Stay here.
Patriotism is alive and well.
We were so excited when Donald Trump got elected that we weren't going to be bullied any longer. We weren't going to have people push us around. We're not going to apologize for who we are, and we're not going to let people walk all over us. We're not going to tolerate it because we're not the weak, spineless country that we used to be.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
What up? Welcome back into the Voice of Reason, making it happen today on a Tuesday morning. Good morning to you. Starting off your day better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink. Welcome in. Let's have a little fun today. What do you say? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK if you want to join into the program. As you know, the end of last week got a little nutso when it came to Kansas politics, as Ron M. Estes filed as a Republican to challenge Congressman Ron Estes in the primary for the 4th Congressional district. A little absurd there. Not quite sure. We'll try and reach out. He's a Republican candidate. We'll try and reach out, trying to get him on the show and see what he's all about and what's going on there. I find it a little absurd when it comes to the shenanigans of being tried to pull there when it comes to a Ron Estes versus Ron Estes type of election. I think it's kind of more of a gag and kind of more of a joke than it is actually a legit type of race, but we'll see what actually happens with that. Also, as you know, Vermin Supreme ended up filing for Attorney General in the state of Kansas. Now, here's the crazy part. As you know, in Vermin Supreme, if you're not familiar with him, I think I have the audio clip here. He's the individual that's run for president every year since like 1992. They call him a political performance artist, meaning that he does this kind of tongue-in-cheek, which there's a need for that in politics once in a while. Now, not necessarily every single year with elections to actually try and take votes away, but I think that there's a need for that in politics because sometimes it gets too heavy. Sometimes we just get a little absurd when it comes to the partisanship, the tribalism that happens in politics, and the performance artists are just kind of the tongue-in-cheek kind of fun politics. There is a need for that. Why do you think that one of the highest-rated viewerships of different types of entertainment when it comes to politics is either talk radio, which we talk about the information, but we do it in somewhat of an entertaining way, so that way you actually pay attention to it. But then aside from that, is really like political comedy shows. Back in the day when Stephen Colbert, before he was doing The Late Show, and he would do the Colbert Report, or the Daily Show with Jon Stewart, or some of those shows, they were a lot of the sources where people would actually go and get their political information because they didn't want the heavy, hard-hitting politics. They wanted it kind of the tongue-in-cheek way with the nice little satire in there, or the jokes, or the comic relief, so to speak. If you remember the movie Man of the Year with Robin Williams, where he was kind of one of those late-night comedy political talk shows, and then he ended up running for president, and that was kind of the gag. There's a need for that in politics. But yet when it comes down to an election, whether that's actually the way that we should go or not, it takes it to a whole different level. Vermin Supreme, if you remember, he's one of those, and he's a very quote-unquote comical type of individual.
Well, of course, I believe that I paved the way for Donald Trump. I've brought ridiculousness to politics, and he saw an opening, and he jumped on in there. There's plenty of room for me in this mess, for sure. In fact, I am on the ballot here in New Hampshire. I am on the Democratic primary ballot. I'm known for 4 basic platform planks to my platform. They are as follows, of course: zombie preparedness, the only candidates with a zombie preparedness plan, and I'm going to harness the zombies for energy sources by utilizing the latest in giant hamster wheel technology. We will have lots of zombies, and we'll just sort of dangle brains in front of them, and then they will turn the giant turbines, creating energy. Number 2, of course, time travel research. I am the only candidate who will go back in time and kill baby Hitler with my bare hands before he's even born. Number 3.
But what about Jeb Bush?
Well, once again, Jeb Bush said he would kill baby Hitler.
Hell yeah, I would.
I say I'm gonna. And then, of course, mandatory toothbrushing laws. Gingivitis has been eroding the gum line of this great nation of ours for long enough and must be stopped. For too long, this great country has been suffering a great moral and oral decay, in spirit and in sizers. A country's future depends on its ability to bite back. We can no longer be a nation indentured. Our very salivation is at stake. What this mandatory toothbrushing law is really about is strong teeth for a strong America. May we become a sea of shining, smiling, shining, smiling, shining, smiling, 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 shining faces from sea to shiny sea. Thank you. I'm Vermin Supreme.
1, 2, and 4. What about number 3?
Oh, number 3, of course. Free ponies for all Americans. It is, of course, a job stimulus creation program, and it is a federal pony identification program.
Won't you have to raise taxes for that?
No, they're free ponies.
All right, so there you go. That's Vermin Supreme. He is the political performance artist, kind of a comedian. He's a bit of an oddball. If you saw some of the pictures of him, he wears the rubber hat on his head as a hat, or a rubber boot as a hat, and he wears some tie-dyed weird clothes. He always carries around a major toothbrush, and he's kind of an interesting fellow. Would you take him seriously to run for office? No. Is it comic relief? Yes, it is. Now, he's come to Kansas. As you know, he came here on Friday. Friday was the deadline to be able to file to run for a political office in the state of Kansas. He has moved to Kansas, and he was running for Attorney General for the state, which out of all the positions that he could be running for, I mean, right now, the governor's race is heated up and interesting enough. Now we're going to be having an Attorney General, our head legal scholar in the state of Kansas, as the Attorney General. and have him try and run for that seat. And as you know, he came to Kansas. He held a rally. It was a big deal. Everybody was kind of tongue-in-cheek, and he was having fun with it and is officially filed. Now, here's the question. He's not sure what political party to run under. And this has now thrown a wrench in the entire system. He originally was going to run for as a Democrat. Now come to find out, a Democrat, backed by the Democratic Party in the state of Kansas, is supporting another individual, a legit candidate, for the Democrats' run for the Attorney General. So now he's come out and said he's not quite sure what political party Vermin Supreme himself will be running for as Attorney General.
My calculations, of course, are real calculations. In this case, there's an attorney from Lawrence, and we'll have the full backing of the Democratic Party, I imagine. And so, therefore, I'm at this moment trying to decide which party. So I think it looks like I might have to just make a straight-up primary run against Derek Schmidt. And that's what I'm leaning towards right now.
And part of your previous platform as presidential candidate was emphasis on hygiene and also free ponies for everyone,
Absolutely,
right?
sir. Dental hygiene, very important. Mandatory toothbrushing laws, I still support them. And free ponies for all Americans, yes, sir, for sure. I'm here, in fact, to help avenge the death of a miniature horse named Misty, who was killed at a petting zoo in Kansas here a while back, and the perpetrators are still at large. And so I want to put all the available resources that are available to the Attorney General's office on this particular case, because it bugs me.
Well, we wish you the best of luck with that, of course.
Thank you. Of course.
All right, there you go. Vermin Supreme now looking like may challenge Derek Schmidt in a Republican primary for the Attorney General. Here's the big question. It's a joke. It's a gag. We get it. How much attention should we really be focusing on Vermin Supreme as this run for Attorney General? Politics is crazy enough. Trying to get voter turnout is crazy enough. Focusing on legit issues is crazy enough. And do we need the time for a gag and for a joke and for it? Yeah, we need the comic relief once in a while. Is this the way to do it? Because now the Kansas Republican Party looking to eradicate Vermin Supreme from the primary ballot, where he's challenging GOP incumbent Derek Schmidt in the Attorney General's race. He's a Kansas resident. He said that he is a Kansas resident, quote, in the time-honored political tradition of seeking office under false pretenses of where a politician lives. The performance artist style says that Supreme planned to file as a Democrat, but changed his mind Friday morning when he learned about another Democratic candidate entering the race. I think the pull-away quote here is, I object to their objection. So going to his legal team, trying to fight the fact that he's from out of the state, originally from New Jersey or Massachusetts or wherever he's from out there on the East Coast, and trying to fight legally to be able to stay on the ballot as a Republican candidate, as the Republicans trying to remove him from the ballot because he does not have residency here in the state of Kansas. How much focus and how much attention should the Republican Party in the state of Kansas actually have on Vermin Supreme? They know he's not going to win. He's not going to have a chance. He's not going to go anywhere with it. It's all the tongue-in-cheek kind of stuff. So should the Republican Party actually try and remove him from the ballot or just kind of let it ride? That's the question I have for you today. 316-721-8255. Vermin Supreme said he is turning the matter over to his attorney if needed. He will phone in the objections into the objection board with his great little vacation home in Topeka. He said with a wink, I think that we have a self-interest to protect. Of course, they want to keep Vermin Supreme off the ballot. It's one that we'll kind of half follow. It's one that we'll half pay attention to because it is the comic relief. Other than that, he's not going to go anywhere with it. But the Republican Party seems to be kind of up in arms about this. He can't be on the ballot. We need to be able to remove him from the ballot, and he shouldn't be on there. We need to remove him from this. He can't be doing this. He's from out of state. Yeah, we get it. We removed the individual from New York off the governor's ballot because he did not have residency here in the state of Kansas. But at least I give Vermin Supreme credit. I mean, he at least came to the state of Kansas. He at least filed in Topeka. He at least held his own little rally in Topeka, and he actually came here and knows a little bit about the state. He was talking about the candidate from Lawrence. He was talking apparently about the pony that died at the petting zoo here in Kansas, and that's why he wants to be Attorney General, is to fight the litigation and try and create some type of case against the individuals that let a pony die in Kansas at a petting zoo. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I would highly doubt it, but I don't know. So I give him credit. At least he's come here, and he's at least staying here for his vacation home in Kansas while he's running for office, but he's not going to win. Let me tell you right now, this isn't like one of those, Donald Trump's not going to win the presidency. It's not like one of those. He is a comic. He is a performance artist. He knows he's not going to win. He's doing this for the publicity and to lighten the mood a little bit in Kansas, as this is a very important election cycle in the state. Not going to win, not going to go anywhere. We need to just say, okay, and just kind of let it ride. We don't need to focus a whole lot of attention on it other than when we just need a nice little chuckle first thing in the morning. 48 minutes past the hour. Got to take a break. Your thoughts and calls as we wrap up hour number 1. We got some fun goodies. When we come back, Shawnee County seems to be in the news quite a bit lately. And as yesterday we talked about Shawnee, the city of Shawnee actually apologizing for the float that Chris Kobach rode through with the Jeep and the gun mounted on there as the replica of the gun. They apologized for that. Now they're going to have some kind of ordinance to where next time in the parade, we need to make sure that nobody has the replica of a gun, while we have a whole bunch of bystanders carrying constitutional carry firearms, but nobody can have a replica of a really big scary looking gun in their parades. That was the big news yesterday. Today, there's a lot of litigation going on in Shawnee, both of an immigrant that was being held supposedly too long because he was an illegal immigrant detained in Shawnee County. Also, the Shawnee School Board getting under lawsuit as the American ACLU, American Civil Liberties Union, suing the school board for Shawnee School District because of the violation of freedom of speech for children. We'll talk about that a little bit later as well and get your thoughts and calls on that one. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay right here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. 7 minutes at the top of the hour. Great to have you along today. It is a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday. Let's have a little fun. That's the way we roll. Entertainment, education, conservatism, patriotism, constitutionalism. That's what you'll all find right here on The Voice of Reason. 316-721-8255. By the way, getting into schools just for a second, as we talk about some of the education in schools, which we will talk about in a second, with some of the rights of children that I think might be kind of interesting. There is a story out from the UK from today.com. British schools are now replacing analog clocks because kids can't read them during tests. What?
I'm special!
Oh, come on. Give me a break. Really? They're changing the analog, so the actual round clocks where you see the arms and the needles and everything move around to where you actually see the seconds and minutes and hours. They're replacing them with digital clocks because the kids, while they're taking tests, being educated, learning about how life actually works, and trying to be a bookworm and actually be smart and stuff. They're changing and removing the analog clocks from the classroom because they cannot read them while they're taking tests. I don't know if it's because maybe they're too stressed or maybe they just haven't been taught how to read an analog clock, but really, that's where education has come to. Instead of teaching them, we just get rid of it and remove it. Kind of explains education, right? Kind of explains the whole Common Core process. Some schools in the UK reportedly ditching the traditional analog clocks because students are not able to read them and tell the time during test taking. Some schools in Britain are throwing their hands up over the kids who cannot read and tell those traditional clocks. Some UK schools are now ditching those because they're getting stressed about running clocks and running out of time during tests, according to London's Telegraph. The current generations are not as good at reading the traditional clock's face as older generations. There you go. Times have changed, are they not? Because all they got to do is look at, again, their phone as they're addicted to their phone, playing their games on their phone or doing whatever they do on their phones. They just look at the time on there as opposed to actually looking at the analog clock. And when you are actually being told you can't look at your phone during a test because you might, be cheating by looking stuff up on the internet, then they can't tell the time, and then they all just panic and stress even more, and then they end up doing bad on the test, and then the schools freak out because then the test scores are really low, and it's just a whole process. So instead of actually teaching them to build up to understand it, they just get rid of it altogether. Unbelievable. It's craziness, right? 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones here, shall we? Good morning. What's your name?
Scott.
Scott, what's happening, sir?
Well, it's too bad that the city leaders in this area can't put as much vigor in creating jobs and businesses as they do in this river festival, which is a self-serving special interest program that they have, because for some reason they can really gear that up, but they can't do anything as far as the rest of the year.
What do you mean?
Exactly what I'm saying. The River Festival, they have a lot of events. They put a lot of energy in it. They put a lot of money in it. They do a lot of work in it that they don't do the rest of the year. I mean,
well, it's organized.
Businesses need to be created.
It's organized by an organization of Wichita Festivals, so it's organized by a private company. I mean, now the city works with them in order to make it happen and allow it to happen and be able to try and organize, the operation of it downtown sort of thing, but it's organized and planned out by Wichita Festival, so it's kind of a private club or private organization that's actually putting on Riverfest. It's not necessarily the city, other than just the city cooperating with them and working with them to allow it to happen.
Well, for some reason, the city can't find anybody else to cooperate with to create jobs and businesses in this area. They can get with these special interest guys who are, making some self-serving money, but for some reason, when it's time to create some businesses,
we're on the uptrend, Scott. I mean, come on, we're on the uptrend. We have one of the lower unemployment rates that we've seen in a long time in the area, don't we?
Yeah, well, there's a lot of people still don't have work or able to get work here. So, I mean, it's not like it's that good. I mean, it's maybe a few people already had jobs or keeping the jobs they got, but beyond that, no, I don't see it.
Well, I mean, we got a long ways to go, and I appreciate that, because I know we're working on it, and I know the city's working on that, and I'm not going to fault the city for that. Look, I mean, it's really difficult for a city to increase jobs and bring more people into the area and to increase industry and have more businesses come to the city when the state is taxing us at ridiculous amounts, when they're taxing businesses, when they're taxing the energy consumption, when they're taxing sales tax at crazy rates, when they're taxing income rates at crazy rates, when they're starting to tax businesses at crazy rates again, and we're going back up the way that we've done the last couple of years with the state legislature. So, I mean, the city can do all it can, and I think that they are doing a semi-decent job on that. And yeah, we got a ways to go, obviously. We always have a ways to go, because we're always going to be growing and expanding and reinvesting in ourselves. But at the same time, I mean, you can only do so much when the state itself is not creating an environment that's actually allowing businesses to come to the state. As I read before, I mean, we're number 38 on the list of U-Haul transportation and migration in the country for the state of Kansas. There's a reason for that. It's because we have a high tax burden in the state. Lots more coming up. Appreciate the phone call. Stay here.
Speak. It's time for Reason.
When they do it, they have a justification. When we do it, then it's a terrible, horrible thing, because we have to have different standards for different people based on their ideology, because we have to have that grace built into the progressive mindset as opposed to a conservative where you're already terrible, so if you just do that, then you're just exposing who you really are. It doesn't matter that a progressive is actually a very hateful, bitter individual. When they lash out, then it's justified and it's actually okay.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, hour number 2 of the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas, on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. What up? Welcome in. It's great to have you along today on a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in 8 minutes past the hour, you're more than welcome to do so. We'd love to hear from you. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, we're going to have our city council member, Brian Fry. He's going to join us as he usually does on a Tuesday, giving us an update from the city. So, Scott, the call right before the end of the last hour, asking about some of the investment when it comes to business growth in the city, then that's the time that we're going to ask that. And we'll talk about what they're doing. And I know that we've talked about it before, and we'll continue to talk about that. And as we talk about tax rates at the city level, at the county level, at the state level, as we keep tax rates down, if we can keep tax rates down, and if we can lower some of the tax rates across the board at all levels, then guess what? That would entice many businesses to want to reinvest in the area. So we'll talk about that and more coming up at the bottom of the hour. Plus, In the 8 o'clock hour, from the Independent Women's Institute, we've had them on before, Jennifer Baceras. She's going to join us and talk about the pharmaceutical companies, the opioid abuse crisis, and Native American tribes that are suing different pharmaceutical companies over the opioid abuse crisis and how it's affecting the Native American community. So we'll talk about that coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. But until then, it's open lines to you, 316-721-8255. I do want to touch on here in just a minute the rights of children when it comes to schools and the school walkout that they've had. Is the ACLU now suing the Shawnee School District for scripts and the shortened amount of time they were allowed back in April during the walkouts to try and protest guns. And now, apparently, that was a violation of the rights of children in those school districts. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But first off, let's go ahead and kick off hour number 2 with a phone call. What do you say? 316-721-8255, line number 1. Good morning. What's your name? Hello.
Hello.
Hello. How we doing?
Good.
Hey, good. What's going on?
Hey, no, I want to talk about the analog clock thing, but going from analog to digital, isn't that just a part of evolution? We went from horses to planes, trains, and automobiles.
It's an interesting point. I mean, shouldn't we at least understand how to read an analog clock, though?
Yeah, but try to get a kid to do a dial phone. They don't know how to do an old-fashioned phone.
Well, that's an interesting point. See, I'm of the feeling that, I mean, if let's say, I don't know, the power goes out and they don't have the time. I mean, if their phone battery dies, heaven forbid, and even though, you know, we talked about the addiction to their phone screen earlier, if the phone dies and they have to be somewhere on time, they only have the analog that's still running, you know, because the power's out and that's the only time they have. I mean, shouldn't we at least have an understanding of it? I mean, I guess you're right. The time's evolving, the times are changing, and we need to keep up with that. But I don't know. I have a hard time saying, you know what, let's just scratch the analog clock and just go straight digital. There's something about that. I just don't know if I like that idea. Maybe I'm a little old school traditional, though. Maybe I'm just out of times.
Out of time. There you go.
Out of times. I appreciate that. It's an interesting take on that. If you did miss it, right before the top of the hour in the last segment, we had talked about how many schools in Britain are going away from the analog clocks and going straight digital because the children were stressed in the test taking times and not knowing exactly what time it was when they were taking their test, because many of them were not able to read analog clocks. And I have I don't know. Maybe it is just a going with the times kind of thing, but I mean, to me it's almost like the whole times table. And you learn how to do mathematics based on the times table and the whole chart of actually doing the times table chart, and how the Common Core math, you don't even learn that any longer. And it's kind of a basic commonality to where you're not always going to have your phone next to you. You're not always going to have your calculator next to you. You're not always going to have that technology right there to do the math problem for you. So you should probably know how to do a times table in order to do some quick math on the fly when you're out and about. If you're shopping and trying to figure out exactly what your budget is. If you're trying to buy something and you're trying to get a good deal. I don't know. It's kind of that, to me at least, it's kind of that same traditionalism of, you need to learn how to do a times table. You need to learn how to do fast math and not the Common Core way. And you need to learn how to be able to tell time, because if the power goes out and all you have is an analog clock, you're going to say, I don't know when to go to school. I don't know, but maybe you're right. Maybe we are out of date on that one. 316-721-8255. Kind of threw a wrench in that one because I'd assume that we just thought that we would just be in support of an analog clock. So really interesting point. 316-721-8255. Your thoughts on that? Should we at least have a basic understanding of an analog clock, or is it outdated? Are we out of time? And should we just go to a digital clock full out for everybody, so that way we don't have to worry about reading an analog clock? Kind of a really interesting point on that one. 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phone to line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Richard.
Richard, what's happening, sir? On time, you called it on time there. There you go.
Yeah. They do need analog clocks, because I tell you what, mine goes out in my house at least 4 or 5 times a year. And if it wasn't for my old analog alarm clock and battery backup clocks, I would be totally lost. And as far as schooling and stuff, I dropped out of school when I was 16. The only one that gave me advice was my math teacher, and he said, you need to learn simple math because you use math from the time you get up till the time you go to bed. And that is true. Reading the clock, looking at the clock, I got 15 minutes, and we don't teach our kids simple math.
We don't anymore. I mean, I don't know a single school. I mean, maybe they do. I haven't been in school, obviously, for a while, and my daughter's not quite there yet. But from what I have heard, many schools have gone away from the times tables and, the big chart to where, 2 times 2 equals 4 and 2 times 3 equals 6. And they kind of, they had the whole chart there. And they've gotten away from that for whatever reason, because apparently they have a simpler way to teach it. But that is a very simple way to teach that. So going away from that could really be detrimental, because you're not always going to have a calculator or your phone next to you whenever you need to do a quick math problem on the fly when you're out and about.
I had worked a 14-year-old girl part-time mowing lawns and stuff.
Sure.
When she started with me that summer, she could not add 2 plus 2 plus 2. She would come up with 5 or 7.
Oh, sure. And you only have a certain amount of fingers or toes that you can use to count, and that's not going to help you out sometimes, right?
But by the time I got done with her summer, because we'd go around the highway and I'd just read signs and I said, add them. And she could add them. She had a hard time subtracting, and she could do like multiplication.
Sure.
But she flunked algebra.
Sure.
And what did the school system do? She had to take 2 algebra classes the next year. Now, she flunked one. How's she going to handle the second one?
Sure.
And she flunked them both. The school system let her down big time. Okay, well, have a good one.
Richard, I appreciate the call, my friend. Good to talk to you. 316-721-8255. There you go. Analog clocks and basic math. I mean, sometimes the basics are the way to go when it comes to education, but nowadays, you're right. I mean, maybe we are changing a little bit. Nowadays, when it comes to, which I'm going to have a really hard time with, I do have to admit, and I told you before, that my daughter, my 4-year-old, she just turned 4, by the way, 5 days ago on June 1st. She turned 4, which I cannot believe she's that old already. But nonetheless, she's going to be going to school here soon. And I'm really not looking forward to the time that she goes to school now, almost, because I told you before, she's not getting a phone. She's not getting a smartphone until she starts driving. And then she's going to get a flip phone just to be able to call mom and dad and say, hey, we're on the way back from a sporting event. We'll be home soon. That's about the extent of what her phone's going to be. But now in school, apparently everybody gets the iPad or gets some kind of a notepad in order to do the digital thing, and they're learning how to build apps and learning how to troll, social media and learning how to get online and yada, yada, yada. And I'm going to have a hard time with that, because I really want the education to be the basic math problems, the times table, and learning how to read an analog clock, apparently. But if I do that, am I setting my daughter up for failure with a society that's going more digitizing, going more online, and learning how to build apps and learning how to read apparently just the digital clock and learning those things? And am I teaching her things that she may not necessarily need to use or be able to use in a society that's gone more that way? Because I am more of a traditionalist kind of individual, but am I setting her up for a bad education? Your thoughts on this? 316-721-8255. Let's go back to the phone to your line number 3. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Jim.
Jim, good morning, sir. How are you?
Oh, I'm just doing absolutely great this week. I enjoyed myself so far.
Hey.
Listen, on this math thing, 20-some years ago, I was going to WSU. I was going to see if I could get a degree, and I was absolutely amazed that the college textbooks have this instruction for how to extract the square root.
Okay.
Push this button.
Push this button.
Yeah, that's what the textbook. They don't even have it. You're as a parent, you have pencil and paper.
Sure.
You can teach your child the multiplication table right now.
Sure.
You can get them going, get their mind going. Get them a slide rule. That's one of those old things. They use logarithms.
Sure.
And you can actually multiply numbers, and then the kid can think about the magnitude. I mean, if I multiply 2,550,000 by 5,
right?
You should be able to figure out that this is going to be, between
whatever that number is. Yeah.
Yeah, you should be able to get magnitudes in your mind.
Sure.
And because if you have an electronic calculator and you push the wrong button, you'll get the wrong answer, and you won't even realize it.
Oh, you're going to have fun. I mean, I still remember now, I took calculus, so I did have one of those really big calculators with the whole screen on there to see the the graph and everything, and I still have that calculator because I really enjoy it. But you're right. You punch in one wrong number on there, and the graph and the chart's completely messed up, and you got to start all over. And I mean, once you get to that calculus level, then I mean, you're filling up a half a page just to show the steps of how you actually come to your conclusion for the answer. And the answer is not a simple number 2, but it's actually a whole nother formula that actually explains the formula that you were trying to solve in the first place. So it's, it gets more complicated.
Kids need to learn how to do it all.
Yeah, right. And by that time, I mean, do you need the calculator? Yeah, absolutely. You need the calculator for something like that. Well,
you could, you go back 100, 200 years ago. You go back 50 years ago when Kelly Johnson and his guys invented the SR-71 airplane that is over 2,000 miles an hour.
Sure.
They did it with pencil and paper and slide rules.
Well,
they didn't have calculators.
They didn't have calculators.
They had brains.
Well, that's true. That's a really great point, Jim. I appreciate that. I mean, you're right. We can do it, and we need to learn how to do that on our own. I mean, even let's go back to something very basic, even something very simple. If you lost all the contacts in your phone, would you know the phone number of your family or friends in order to be able to call them without just saying, going, hey, Siri, please call so-and-so? And then it just dial. See, look at that. I just said Siri, and my Siri just turned on. Thank you, Siri. And I'm sure yours did as well. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to do that one. But, I mean, you get the point. If your phone died or you lost all your contacts, how would you call your parents? How would you call your kids, your children? How would you call your friends? How would you call it? Would you know the number to call them? I used to have all the phone numbers memorized, my home number and my grandparents' number, and it's like all my grandparents' different numbers, and then a couple of my cousins' numbers. I knew those. And I think I still would be able to remember a couple of those. But nowadays, I don't know many of them. You go on to your nice little contacts and you call them. And even something that basic. Should we start memorizing those numbers again? Should we start having that information logged into our brains? Or should we continue to be a little more dependent on that technology as technology becomes more advanced, as we continue to rely more and more on it in our daily basis, and then we just give up that little bit of self-intelligence to be able to do it on the fly with ourselves? It's a really interesting concept and a really interesting conversation, and the whole, even going back to the analog versus digital clocks, should we be teaching our children how to read an analog clock, or should we just give that up, as they did in many different schools in the UK, and just give up the analog clock and not have to worry about the nice little circle and how it's turning? Or let's take it even further, an old grandfather clock or something that you see the analog on there, and then it dings at certain hours, and be able to set that up on when you want it to, and that sort of thing. Should we be giving that type of traditionalism up to go full on with the digital clocks? I have a very hard time doing that because I'm a traditionalist. I like kind of the old school ways, because the old school ways were working just fine, so why kind of mess something up if it's not broken, sort of thing. But at the same time, traditionalism is going away, and the new improved technology ways are stepping up. 316-721-8255. Your thoughts on this and more when we come back. 22 minutes past the hour. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
27 minutes past the hour. Man, it really makes you think now. What do you actually need to learn, not need to learn? Now, I got to admit, too, I've never actually used the whole slider thing. I've never used that. And that was probably before my time. I've done now the times tables. I remember as a kid, actually, when I learned, it was the Mad Math Minute. It was the Mad Minute. And you would do it to be able to test you. You would have 60 seconds, 1 minute, to be able to do as many math problems as you could. And we'd start off with the addition, subtraction, then we go to multiplication and division. And we would have the Mad Minute. That was always my favorite thing. And that was, I want to say, 3rd or 4th grade when we would do that stuff, and we were just starting to learn that. I mean, my daughter, she's nowhere near to that point yet. I mean, she just turned 4, but she does know how to count to 20 and knows all of her colors and numbers, that sort of thing. So she's learning that sense, but soon it's going to be starting to add and starting to subtract. And I tell you what, she's going to learn how to do that. But I don't know. There are some things I think that you just need to know how to read an analog clock, how to do a math problem and times tables, and I don't know. We were just talking. We may have to how to start fire. I mean, we need to, and there's something called gasoline for that. Just joking. 316-721-8255. Yes, don't do that. That'd be bad. I do want to give you an opportunity, by the way, as you know, coming up this Saturday at 3 p.m. at Riverfest, KQAM and KGSO, we are hosting the 9th annual Funnel Cake Eating Contest. And we get to host that one. We're the sponsors of the Funnel Cake Eating Contest at Riverfest every single year. It's the 9th annual one, and we give you an opportunity to get registered for this. Are you tough enough? Is your stomach tough enough for the 9th annual KQAM KGSO Funnel Cake Eating Contest? I believe the way it works, you get 10 minutes to eat as many funnel cakes as you would like to. We do have the buckets next to you in case that does not work very well for you, and but we have a lot of fun with it. And if you want to get registered, we are taking registration right now, and I will take caller number 2 at 721-8255, 721-TALK. If you want to get registered for your chance to be the ultimate master of the Funnel Cake Eating Contest for the 9th annual at Riverfest, it's going to be this Saturday at 3 p.m. at the food court. It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll have one of us out there. I believe it's going to be Rick Everett or somebody out there actually hosting it, and we're going to have some fun to see how you can stomach the ultimate funnel cake eating contest. Caller number 2 right now will get you registered for that competition right here on The Voice of Reason. Lots more to get to when we come back after the bottom of the hour. Our city update. City Council member Mr. Brian Fry. He was looking pretty suave out there at the parade. We'll talk about that and more when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
Trendy.
Oh my God, yes, more.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Hey, welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Great to have you along today. 36 minutes past the hour on a Tuesday, hashtag Freedom Loving Tuesday. One of the most patriotic days of the week, which is why it's hashtag Patriotic Tuesday. Let's get it started. What do you say? 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Sorry, I was running a little bit late. I forgot how to read my analog clock here in the studio. And Brian Fry, city council member, as he's in here as well.
This city.
You almost missed your time with us in here, right?
Yeah. Good morning. Yeah, I was going to call you on my rotary phone, but I couldn't figure out how to use that.
Yeah, I had a hard time trying to. That one didn't allow you to text me.
No.
Yeah, that's right. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. Had a fantastic weekend and looking forward to the week.
You know, I got to say, I saw the pictures of you at the parade, the Riverfest parade on Friday, and fantastic jacket, my friend. That was outstanding.
Thank you. I had a ball with that, and social media blew up. I mean, I don't think I broke the internet like Kim Kardashian did, right? But,
well, sure.
I had a lot of fun with it, a lot of tweets, a lot of Facebook likes, and Fruhoff Uniforms made that jacket for me. And it's, if you haven't seen it, it's the Wichita flag, full pattern front and back, and just outstanding work that they did, and the crowd loved it. I loved wearing it.
That was a lot of fun.
It was amazing. I also had some custom-made Wichita flag shoes.
Okay.
That Dan ICT, you can find him on Facebook. He made those.
Okay.
And so I was top to bottom.
I mean, you were ready to go. You were supporting this city. That's fantastic. No, it was really cool to see. From what I was unfortunately not able to make that one for the parade. I've made it the last 3 years. Was not able to make this one, but I've heard it was a really great turnout. It was really warm, and it was really cool to see. And you made the front newspaper. That's what that.
I was over the moon with that. I mean, I expected hopefully something, right?
Right. There you go.
But I didn't expect the front page of the paper, so that was cool.
That was really cool. Nope, that was great. How's from what you saw, how's Riverfest looking so far?
It was great. It was a fantastic turnout for the parade, and then Sunday we had the KQAM Celebrity Egg Toss competition, and Rick Everett was there, and he was the MC, and the mayor and I took home the honors. We won. And so we got a little bragging rights this year. Now, it's
you
not
go.
the funnel cake eating contest.
Are you ready for that one?
I don't think I could do that. If I'm going to gorge myself, I'd rather be enchiladas. All right.
Oh, yeah, there you go. There you go. See, we could get you signed up for it. I mean, you already have one award that you won right there with the egg toss. So, I mean, come on, being able to eat the funnel cake, you could probably.
I don't know. I feel like a baby sloth afterwards.
Go 2 for 2 on that one.
I just have to chime in. The athletic prowess
yes.
of our mayor, Jeff Longwell, and our vice mayor, Brian Fry.
See?
These guys looked like athletic,
They knew what they were-
Olympian quality athletes.
Well, they probably trained.
No,
I mean, you guys
no,
probably
no
did some training
I
beforehand.
do believe they
No.
may have.
I could see them in the mayor's office tossing eggs back and forth while before the
And
hand.
actually, it came down to the final 4 candidates that were viable to win the championship.
Yes.
In this endeavor were Chief of Police Gordon Ramsay, City Commissioner, Councilwoman Cindy Claycomb,
okay,
and then our vice
then these
mayor
two.
and our
Okay.
mayor,
Mhm.
and you have one of the half of the
go.
championship team sitting right across from you.
So when the chief broke his egg, I told him, that's good. You can keep your budget now.
See, there you go. There you go. See, well, it would have been really bad to have messed up that jacket. See, and that could have been the example. Yeah, but I'm too terrified to break the egg because I really don't want that on the jacket.
I didn't wear the jacket. I trust our mayor.
That's right.
But it's a one-of-a-kind jacket.
It's a one-of-a-kind jacket, so I trust him. But I love it.
No, it was great. So the festival's been fantastic so far. Tonight we have a salute to military, which ought to be a lot of fun, and then the ice cream socials tomorrow night.
Sure.
So a lot of things still to come, but it's going well.
You know, as a city as a whole, which is why I brought it up, because this, the fact that this is one of the biggest outdoor events in the entire world. What they say, like number 35 or something.
Yeah, it's in the top
world.
50 or maybe even higher than that right now. So.
Yeah, which is crazy. And the fact that it happens here, they're expecting over 400,000 people to show up to Riverfest this year. It really shows that, I mean, number one, we have a community that is so in tune with one another that we just love to be able to go out and enjoy these events and have some summertime together and do this. It's really cool to see our community actually unite like that.
Well, and the festival's done a great job of getting support and sponsors. I mean, the value that you get for that $10 button. I mean, the concert lineup alone is phenomenal.
Insane.
And then you got all the extra events that you can do with your button. So they've done a fantastic job. The community has supported it. People are turning out. They're getting together and having fun, and so the amount of arrests are very small. So not people are behaving.
That's a good thing.
And so it's just been a wonderful resurgence the last 5, 6, 7 years, I believe, since Mary Beth has been running it.
Sure.
And again, the board and what they're doing, and their sponsors and the volunteers. It takes hundreds of volunteers to put this together. And again, all for a $10 button. I mean, it's amazing.
And you can go in numerous times with that button. As long as you have it, you're good to go.
Absolutely. So, no, it's a great source of pride for Wichita, and I think it outperforms Coachella and a couple other major concert festivals.
That's insane.
So it's fantastic.
That's
it's
really
a great
cool.
source of pride for Wichita. So
absolutely. I'm glad you were able to make it. We'll get you signed up for that
funnel.
that whole funnel cake eating contest. There you go. Let's see how that one works out. Coming up, as you mentioned last week, not necessarily a city meeting because that one was the last one of the month and more just kind of an educational thing last week. But this week we're back at it, ready to go for another city meeting. What's on the slate today?
So again, a full business agenda. We have public speakers and a couple of proclamations, and then a couple of simple adoptions of different things, an assignment of a ground lease. We had a downtown hotel that sold, but we own the ground underneath it, so we have to assign that ground lease to the new owners. Pretty simple stuff. But we do have a very interesting zoning case. There's an intersection at 21st and Oliver over by Wichita State that the corner on the northwest side has always been SF5 single-family residential.
Mm-hmm.
And a few years ago, they tried to change that to general commercial, and it got denied. It's come back.
The owners tried to change that?
Right.
Okay.
The owner of the property wants to change it to commercial. It got denied a few years ago. It's back before us again because now there's some other commercial development that has happened. On the northeast corner, there's now a convenience store, and they're building an apartment complex and some retail.
Sure.
On the south side of it, WSU has grown their innovation campus, and they've put in some retail, and they're putting in a hotel. So the corner has changed dramatically since just a few years ago.
Okay.
And so now the applicant is coming back again and saying, look, residential's, this corner has completely been rebuilt. The city has redone that intersection to handle the increase in traffic.
Right.
Full turn lanes in all directions. And so the property owner's like, look, this doesn't work as a home anymore. It needs to be commercial. And so the request is to turn it into limited commercial with a protective overlay.
Sure.
Which limits the type of businesses that can be there. So the Planning Commission approved it with a split vote.
Okay.
The District Advisory Board rejected it. There is a petition protest of 42%. So now it comes before the council, and we have to figure out which is the best way to go, knowing that there's conflicting ideas and purposes and protest. So that's going to have some discussion, I'm sure, today, because it did 5 years ago before I got on council. And again, the intersection has changed quite a bit since then, but it's infill, what we call that urban infill area. So taking these lots that aren't producing as much income as they could be with property taxes because it's high profile commercial corner with the other things that have happened around it.
Sure.
Is there a better use for that corner than that residential?
Interesting.
But it's property rights. It's that person who owns it. They'd like to develop it. The neighbors adjacent to it say, no, we'd like to keep it the way it's always been. They're concerned about traffic and potential of increased crime. So, it's one of those conflicts when you start getting into urban areas inside the city.
Sure.
And how things have changed over time, like the phones and the span thing. People have to adjust and say, okay, maybe this isn't the best purpose for this land anymore.
Sure.
And as the property owner, do they have the right to make that choice if they want? So
interesting. Well, that's going to be an interesting conversation. I'm glad you guys are having that kind of debate. I mean, as you mentioned, being that it has kind of grown to be a little more commercialized in that area, as the property owner, if they want to, I mean, from my perspective of it, I mean, why the heck not? As opposed to the neighbors that say, well, we don't want that to do that just because of the fact that we want to keep it as is. So it's good that we're expanding, and it's good to have a conversation like that.
And there are some things that we can do. We can require some more significant screening between the existing residential and the commercial. Rather than just a fence, it could actually be a masonry wall.
Okay.
You can put the protective overlay on it to say these are the types of businesses you can't have there, like a payday loan or a car wash or a mechanic or a sexually oriented business, things like that.
Sure.
And say these are the only types of businesses that can be there.
Okay.
To reduce that impact. You can make sure that the lighting is shied away from the residential and only on the commercial property. So, I mean, you can do some things, but the bigger question is this now a different corner than it was 15, 10, 5 years ago?
Sure.
And does it justify being more of a commercial corner than a residential property? 20, 50 years ago, that was, Country Club. That was the old Crestview.
Okay.
And then WSU had the golf course there. There really wasn't a lot of development. It was residential.
Now look at it, yeah.
And it's changed. And it's those kind of things that we adjust all the time. And we have to do these zoning cases, and they can get very controversial. And again, this one is a split between the different bodies that are looking at it. But ultimately, it comes back to us, and we have to have a super majority to approve it, 6 out of 7 votes.
Okay.
To approve this request. And that's, again, some of those limitations that we put on this to make sure that
if you're going to do it, it's going to be done right.
Right.
Exactly. Well, and that's a good kind of stipulation to have on there. And as you mentioned, as the city's ever changing and as we are investing, I mean, we had a caller earlier asking about the investment of business in the area and the growth of new business. And this is the way to do it, is we have more opportunities and more space when it comes to the zoning opportunities for commercial use and local businesses to start businesses in the area, to have new opportunities in the area, as you mentioned, with Wichita State kind of growing in that area. I mean, that's the kind of discussions that we should be having. So it's really good that we are.
Right. And we talked about this previously. When we have urban infill areas, this is this core of the city.
Sure.
Most of those infrastructure things have been paid for several times over. So we get a better return on our investment if we can redevelop those properties and get them active again on the tax rolls and generating more revenue than what it had been before, because now it's active and being used again.
Sure.
Rather than putting a lot of infrastructure dollars out on the outskirts where it takes a much longer time to get them paid back.
Sure.
So when we can develop these infill lots like this and get them generating tax revenue again, that's a win for everyone. We've talked about downtown and the amount of investment that's happened just along Douglas Avenue in the last 10 years. It's $500 million worth of investment, with only about $100 million being public investment.
Okay.
So we got a great return on that.
Sure.
Because of things like Cargill and Union Station and River Vista, and so all the apartment complexes that are being built in the core area. We're seeing significant investment because of the way that we're doing incentives, the way that we're developing our properties, and the greater good that we're trying to adhere to.
Sure. Absolutely. Very good. I'm glad you guys are having that conversation. Now, you mentioned protests on this. What were they protesting from turning it to commercial? Because
Right.
they didn't want it to be?
It's the neighboring residents
Okay.
That want to keep it not commercial. Would
Okay.
like to stay more residential. They're concerned about the traffic, the additional potential for noise and possible crime. Just anytime that there's more people coming into an area,
It's a concerning.
it's a concern.
Sure.
And it's kind of a very nice, neat community. It's a private road with some lakes, and again, these are large lots that have existed for years, and so they're just worried about the increase in traffic and people. And again, there's some things that we can do, but I don't know how the rest of the council's going to vote on it. We haven't really discussed it yet. This is Councilmember Brandon Johnson's district, and so we'll kind of look towards him because it is his district and what he'd like to see happen.
Sure. Very good. Very. By the way, speaking of that, we're going to actually have Brandon Johnson on next week, later in the week as well, because,
Awesome.
that's the district that I live in anyways. But anybody that wants to meet with city council members on issues happening in their district, we did that last week. My wife had a discussion that she wanted to have about some traffic lights and some walkways
right.
across some highways and that sort of thing. And you guys are really open to being able to sit down one-on-one with a lot of your constituents in your district in the city to be able to talk about things happening in your district.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate that.
We all have office hours. We have offices there at City Hall. We have district advisory meetings. We've all got city council Facebook pages. You can call me anytime. You can email me anytime. I'll make visits to businesses or residences to figure out what's needed to be done and what's your concern. So I think all of us are very open and approachable. We have to be,
sure,
because it's part of the job.
Sure.
And so I welcome it. I love discussing things with citizens. When we go grocery shopping, the wife is a little, come on, because I get stopped and she goes,
sure,
catch up to me later. And
that's
I'm
right.
Like,
I'll see you at the checkout. Yeah, exactly.
So I always have to. I can't just go out and dirty work clothes to this grocery store. I never know who I might run into. Right?
You have to put on a hat or something really low, just try and hide yourself. Yeah, or just wear the Wichita jacket. Then,
that doesn't get me noticed.
Yeah. Not at all. Not at all. We got about a minute left here, but also I know it's going to be coming up in kind of an ongoing thing, but the budget debate still that's going to be kicking back up a little bit as well too.
Yeah,
right?
We're heavy into it right now. We're discussing again police staffing and trying to afford the additional officers that the study has suggested. We want to get more officers on patrol, out on the streets, making visits, being community police officers, being proactive rather than reactive. If we can get more officers on the streets making patrols, we'll see increase in response times, more responsive times. We're going to see hopefully better investigations and better closure rates because we're going to be able to have officers and more detectives to follow up on things. But bottom line is we want to get more officers being more proactive rather than reactive and stopping crimes and things before they happen.
Sure.
So,
City Council Member Brian Frett. Next time, if you run a little bit late, I know the rotary phone didn't quite text. You may just have to, write the letter and have the bird send it over.
There you go, the carrier pigeon.
There we go. We'll work on that one. 8 minutes at the top of the hour. Appreciate it very much, Brian. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thank you.
Always a good time. Let's take a break. Wrapping up hour number 2. Lots more to get to right here on The Voice of Reason on a #Patriotic Tuesday. Stay here.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up hour number 2 already. It goes by way too fast. When we come back, hour number 3, the Independent Women's Institute going to chat with us. Always great to chat with them. Conservative alternative to the women's movement, the women's right activism. the alternative to the hashtag #MeToo movement. They'll be chatting with us coming up in just a bit. Plus, we'll open up last few. I still want to get to, by the way, as we talk about education and traditionalism in the old school traditional ways, apparently, the rights of children. Where do they start and where do they end when it comes to the rights of children to make their voices heard as opposed to what they're being told they need to do by both parents and by administrations of schools? That'll be a conversation that we'll have wrapping up the program today. Plus, always open lines to you, as this is your show. I mean, it's all about you. That's the way we roll here, is trying to get you the information, trying to get you to be active, trying to be the catalyst for you to make the changes locally and nationwide, because that's the way we roll, baby. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. Don't worry, I'll tweet it out to you with the original pigeon carrier as traditionalism rolls along here in the Voice of Reason. Stay tuned.
It's time for Reason.
When they do it, they have a justification. When we do it, then it's a terrible, horrible thing, because we have to have different standards for different people based on their ideology, because we have to have that grace built into the progressive mindset as opposed to a conservative where you're already terrible, so if you just do that, then you're just exposing who you really are. It doesn't matter that a progressive is actually a very hateful, bitter individual. When they lash out, then it's justified and it's actually okay.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. Right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM. Simulcasting on KGPT TV, channel 2610. What up? Welcome in. It's great to have you along today, having more fun than what we're supposed to be on a daily basis, advancing conservatism on a daily basis, just doing the thing on a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday. Yeah, that's the way we roll. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you today. 8 minutes past the hour. I want to shift gears just for a minute here. There's a lot to talk about today, but there's an issue that's been ongoing, and we've talked about this sporadically throughout different shows when it comes to the opioid crisis. As you know, the state of Kansas trying to put a damper on that as we've passed legislation, and we've tried to find ways to curb the opioid crisis just a little bit here in the state of Kansas. We have a long ways to go. Many states have a long ways to go, and there are some that are trying to do something about this, as this is now becoming more and more of a mainstream talking point. As you know, in the political world especially, current events always seem to change, and something new always seems to pop up. There's always an issue that we have to address, and this is one that I think is going to be in the mainstream for a while until we get this addressed. And I'm really excited to have our next guest on the show. She's with the Independent Women's Institute. She's a political columnist and former commissioner of the United States Commission on Civil Rights. She is Jennifer Baceras on the line with us. Jennifer, how are you this morning?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. I appreciate you coming on the show very much. So before we get into the piece that you wrote here and has been talking about with the Independent Women's Institute, when it comes to the opioid crisis, on a broad scale, on a general scale, when do you think this really became a serious issue that we started to recognize and say, hey, we need to start addressing the opioid crisis in America?
Oh, gee. Well, I think, politically it started to become a big issue maybe 5 years ago or so. But of course, drug abuse has always been a problem in this country, and the overprescription of opioids has been going on for a while.
Mm-hmm. It's been, as you mentioned, getting worse and worse, and at least we're beginning to address it. From your take, from your study, from your observation on this, what's the best approach to this? Is it going after maybe pharmaceutical companies and trying to limit their exposure and the availability when it comes to the opioid crisis? Is it the national health care debate on whether going towards the socialized medicine and Obamacare, going back towards privatized health care in the country? Is it taking up the issue at the state level? What's the best way that we can begin to address this?
Well, gee, I'm not a doctor, but I would say that I think awareness is a big part of it, and making people aware of how addictive these drugs are, and having doctors caution patients to whom they prescribe these drugs about only having them on them for a limited time and that type of stuff. And also there needs to be a whole education piece around drugs that then make you more susceptible to opioid abuse, because there are studies now that show that people who smoke marijuana, for example, even casually and or once in a while in their use, are basically training their bodies to be to be addictive, and so that later in life, if they have an accident and are prescribed an opioid for back pain, as a legitimate pain reliever, they're more susceptible to becoming addicted.
Very interesting. Well, in one group or one I want to say culture that I guess has been really affected by this has been the Native American tribes. We have a lot of Native American tribes here in the Kansas, Oklahoma area, being in this area here, and seeing both the alcohol abuse, the drug abuse, what happens within the different reservations. It's really sad to see. Has the opioid issue even taken its toll within the Native American communities as well?
Oh, sure. There's no community that's immune. And in fact, many of the Native American tribes are now suing Big Pharma, along with hundreds of cities, states, municipalities, counties, trying to sort of recoup the public health costs of the crisis, which is something I'm against. But that is happening.
Mm-hmm. Why do you think they turned that way? I mean, what do they hope to get out of it by starting these lawsuits?
Money. Quite frankly, it's all about the money. It's very similar to the litigation that was brought against Big Tobacco 20 years ago, where the government ended up settling with Big Tobacco, and most of the money that they received actually did not end up going to public health initiatives. Very little. I think less than 2% was what was reported by the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken. They basically used the money just to close budget shortfalls.
Well, that's a productive way to be able to use the lawsuit and settlement money to try and stop people from using the product by just paying off some of the government's debt because they were inefficient in doing it in the first place. So I'm with you. I mean, I think lawsuits and litigation against companies like this is a little absurd. If we're going to begin to curb some of the opioid abuse, then we should take kind of the personal responsibility to, not use the actual pills, and which I think goes into the healthcare debate. And in my opinion, Obamacare, that's led to doctors writing more prescriptions because they'd rather just write it off and kind of pass along and say, here's a pain med, instead of actually looking why you have pain. For cost effectiveness or for the efficiency of the healthcare system. So we have a lot of things that actually fall into this, but a lawsuit, in my opinion, is not going to fix it. But today that seems to be kind of the new American dream, isn't it?
It is. It's what they call regulation by litigation. Instead of passing regulations that will directly curb behavior or regulate behavior, they just sue people to try to either get a product off the market that they don't like, or bankrupt the companies that make it, or just get a big chunk of money to use for their own purposes.
Mm-hmm. How many tribes have started this litigation, or has it just been the Native American community as a whole that's actually tried to? Because, I mean, what did you guys say? Over 1,100 lawyers are representing these different parties trying to go after the pharmaceutical companies. Is this kind of a general community thing as a whole going after, or are these just specific tribes that have tried to do this?
No, it's specific state and local governments and tribes. And so there are 41 states, including Kansas, that are part of the litigation. And I'm not sure exactly which tribes are involved, but there are a number of them.
It's unfortunate to see, because as you mentioned, I mean, I don't think it's going to go anywhere. If they get this money, let's say that it actually works, what would this do to the industry itself of the pharmaceutical companies, not only having to pay these massive amounts of lawsuits to governments, to different tribes, to different communities in that sense, but just as a free market enterprise company itself? I mean, what would this do for the future of the production of opioids and for different medications that we would be buying on the market? Would this alter that in any way, shape, or form?
Well, of course. I mean, all of that would be money that could go into research and development for other life-saving medicines. And of course, ultimately it's the consumer that will bear the cost, because they'll raise their prices for these and other products, and then that'll be passed off to the insurance companies, and the whole thing spirals, and it becomes, part of the whole healthcare problem, where insurance companies charge outrageous premiums, and drug makers charge too much money for their medicines, and this is why, because of litigation. This is one of the many reasons why.
Sure. And then I'm sure that there's going to be new litigation coming in after that, saying that the life-saving opioids that we need in order to survive with certain ailments are too expensive for people to be able to purchase or to cover with their insurance. And then they're going to sue the pharmaceutical company, because then they're charging too much for them, right?
Yeah, you can't win. And
Yeah.
sometimes when pharmaceutical companies, face the threat of these lawsuits, they simply pull products off the market. For example, many people don't know that there's actually was a very effective vaccine for Lyme disease several years back, I think a decade or more. And, if you have a dog, you know that when you bring your dog to the vet, the dog is vaccinated for Lyme disease. But there's no vaccine for Lyme disease in current circulation that people can get, because there were so many threatened lawsuits that the pharmaceutical companies just threw up their hands and pulled the product.
Mm-hmm. We're talking with Jennifer Baceras of the Independent Women's Institute. The big question, I guess, is how do we stop this madness? As you said, I mean, the litigation is kind of the American dream, and it's the regulation by litigation, which is the way that we've gone. Is there a way that we can stop that trend and we can get back to common sense and normality to some degree?
It's hard to say. I mean, that's part of it is up to the judges, whether they recognize these lawsuits as frivolous or legitimate, and the lawyers who are fighting them.
Mm-hmm. Jennifer Baceras, Independent Women's Institute, the opioid crisis going to the Native American tribes, and even, as you mentioned, here in the state of Kansas, being part of that litigation. Jennifer, I really appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so much for that insight.
No problem.
Hey, appreciate it very much. That's Jennifer Baceras, Independent Women's Institute. Lots more to get to today. We'll continue this conversation. I think it's a really important one when we come back. Open up lines to you. Your phone calls, 316-721-8255, 18 minutes past the hour. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, 23 minutes past the hour. Great to have you along today. Thanks again to Jennifer for joining us from the Independent Women's Institute, talking about the opioid crisis, Native American tribes, and many states that are suing the pharmaceutical companies. I don't get it. I don't know. To me, that doesn't make any sense to me. That's like suing tobacco company for you getting addicted to smoking. To me, now I understand there are a lot of people that need some type of pill in order to survive. I mean, they need it, and the doctor prescribes it to them. If you're addicted to a certain opioid, is it the fault of the pharmaceutical company for making it? Is it the fault of the doctor for prescribing it, or is it the fault of you for taking it? There's kind of a three-way street here when it comes to figuring out who to blame. We're always looking for the blame game. It's always about who's to blame and whose fault it is and who we need to go after to try and to retaliation or try and set things right or try and fix things. Or, I mean, you hear David Hogg talking about the Second Amendment, and the older generation has failed us because it was their responsibility to protect us because we need to live in a worldwide safe space and that sort of thing. And they have failed us, so we're going to take it into our own hands. Good. Try and take it into your own hands. You're on the wrong. You're not going to do it, but try and take it into your own hands. But is it the duty of the pharmaceutical company to be at fault for you getting addicted to an opioid? In the first hour, if you missed the first hour, we had talked about the story where many parents and even the investors of Apple are now demanding that Apple create an app to limit the time of cell phone usage for individuals because people are getting addicted to the screens and getting addicted to the phone. And again, I brought up the self-responsibility question there of, is it the responsibility of the company to create an app to limit the exposure of the consumer of using the product, or is it the responsibility of the consumer to limit themselves of using the product so that way they don't get addicted to it? Whose responsibility actually is that? So now we're going to do these statewide lawsuits against the opioid, against the pharmaceutical companies who are only there making the products. Now, are they making products that could be potentially dangerous? I'm sure. Are they creating things that are a little too easy to access? I'm sure. But again, whose responsibility is that? Then we need to look at the healthcare system as a whole, in my opinion, as Obamacare has led to a lot of this. And we saw a major spike in the opioid crisis and addiction to opioids when it came to Obamacare because the doctors do not have time to actually do the studies and the testing, and nor can we afford it to actually do the testing, nor do many of the specialists actually get covered under your insurance because of Obamacare, to where it's harder and harder and harder to find the actual ailment of why you're feeling the way you're feeling, as opposed to just saying, oh, you feel that way, here's a pill, it'll get better. Write it out, baby. Oh, you ran out, here's another pill for you. We can thank Obamacare for that one. And universal health care. And government-run, government-regulated health care. It all ties into one nice little bow, but at the end of the day, whose responsibility is that for the opioids and what you actually consume into your body? Your thoughts on this? Kind of an interesting conversation. 316-721-8255. I am a little ashamed that the state of Kansas is a state involved in that litigation because I think there are better ways to actually fix many of these problems. Let's go to the phones here, get your thoughts on this. Line number one, good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, it's Deacon. I only call in once usually, but I had to throw this one out there. I'm sorry.
You're good. What you got?
This opioid addiction epidemic, whatever people are calling it now, it's just another example of people not wanting to take responsibility for their own lives. I know people who have permanent, for the rest of their life, damage to their spine, and the only thing that helps out with the pain at all is opioid medications, Percocet, Darvocet, oxycodone, things like that.
Sure.
And a friend of mine, he's one of those guys that, you know, for the rest of his life he's got to be on this medication because he's already had 5 surgeries and there's nothing else they can do for him.
Sure.
And they've cut his medication by 2/3 because of the new regulations. They have taken away 2/3 of his medication, and they're going, yeah, you're just gonna have to make it stretch now.
As he's suffering with that major pain that he lives with for the rest of his life.
Right, and another guy I know, he has they believe a torn tendon in his foot, and it's 3 weeks out before he can get to a specialist to see what they can do about it. And you know, they gave him tramadol, and it's supposed to be, you know, so good for you and everything. He ended up in the hospital because he thought he was dying from the side effects of this stuff.
Wow.
You know, the medication that's supposed to be replacing the opioids has got sometimes worse side effects than the opioid medications, and it's just because people don't want to take responsibility for their lives.
Right. So is that the fault of the pharmaceutical company for providing you and making that opioid for you to be able to take because you live in the pain, you need the pain, and then the government says that you're addicted to the pain or you become addicted to the opioid and you need more of it? Is that the fault of the pharmaceutical? It's kind of like saying, is it the fault of the gun manufacturer because you have 30 guns in your basement and you like to go shoot lots of guns and you could potentially become a crazy mass shooter because of that? So that's the fault of the gun manufacturer.
Well, is it Ford's fault that I like to drive fast if I get a ticket or get in a wreck?
Probably,
no.
Because they created a car that actually allows you to go that fast, so therefore it's their fault, right?
Yeah. It's once again, it's personal responsibility. It's, you know, people just wanting to put the responsibility for their decisions and their actions with somebody else.
That's what it is. Deacon, I appreciate it, my friend. You're absolutely right. Yeah, it's Ford's fault. You made a car that drives too fast. Well, you drove it too fast. Yeah, but it allowed me to do so because the car goes fast. It's a sports car, and it says it goes up to 250, so obviously I had to try it. How dare you, Ford? I'm going to sue you. That's the kind of world that we live in now. Welcome to the new American dream. Bottom of the hour news coming up. Open line to you when we come back.
Spreading the love on a daily basis.
And I will always love you.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Yeah. Welcome back into the Voice Reason, making it happen today on a hashtag Patriotic Tuesday. That's the way we roll. That's what I want to see. And it's open line to you for the last half hour of the program. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, we'd love to hear from you today. What's on your mind? Thanks again to Jennifer coming on from the Independent Women's Institute when we talk about the opioid crisis, which if you want to talk about, you're more than welcome to do so. But I do want to try and shift gears just for a second here as we wrap up the program today. And I've been wanting to talk about this and just haven't had a chance to do so. But I'm very curious on your thoughts when it comes to the rights of children. Do children under 18, middle schoolers, high schoolers, do children have the same rights as adults who can't vote, aren't considered an adult? They don't have any private property. They live with the parents. They have the rules that they have to live under. Do they have the same rights? The reason I bring this up is because today's theme has been really about personal responsibility throughout the entire show today, really, when it comes to the addiction to phone usage and blaming Apple for not having a program to actually be able to shut off the phone or shut off the apps after a certain amount of time because we are addicted to our screens. And how dare that the company providing a product for the consumer not have a program in the product to shut it off for the consumer to not be able to use any longer, because that's the duty of the maker and the company making the product to do, rather than the actual individual saying, yeah, you know what, I'm kind of done for the day. Not going to look at my screen anymore because I don't want to be addicted to it. Then we talk about the opioid crisis. And the opioids that are many people getting addicted to because, well, they're easily accessible, and because the doctors are prescribing them more, and because people sometimes do live in chronic pain or chronic issues, and that's what they're prescribed, and that's what they take, and they end up getting addicted to it. Is it the personal responsibility of management of that, or is it the pharmaceutical company? Look, I mean, the progressives, they love coming down on the pharmaceutical companies. That's kind of the easy pick, the big straw man that they kind of build up in order to attack. If you go on social media and you go on Twitter and you listen to Bernie Sanders is all about hating on business owners, hating on the evil rich and elite, hating on Republicans, and hating on the pharmaceutical companies. That's what they go after, because it's the pharmaceuticals companies' fault for you getting addicted to their product because it's so easily accessible. So then you sue, and then the price goes up because then they have to pay the lawsuit, and then we complain that it's more expensive, and then we sue them because it's too damn expensive. Do you see the cycle here? We're kind of going around in a circle, are we not? And it's a little absurd. Welcome to the new American dream is the litigation and the lawsuits. It really explains why, by the way, the courts and the judicial system have become full of activists when it comes to judges, when it comes to the Supreme Court, both at the statewide levels, the district courts, the circuit courts, the U.S. Supreme Court. Why they've all become activists? Because we look towards them to solve all of our problems. You don't like the way something's going, you sue somebody and you take it to court and let the court make that decision and say, yeah, you've been treated unfairly, rather than us dealing with it ourselves. That's why you saw the ACLU come after Chris Kobach when it came to voter suppression, quote unquote, which is completely absurd. And they've gone after him. The ACLU, that's all they do. And I don't understand the point of them, because their whole intention is just to sue everybody. Sue everybody. I don't like them. You're a conservative. You are a traditionalist. You are this. You're a that. We don't like you. We're just going to sue you. We're just going to come after. We're going to file a lawsuit, take you to court, and we know the courts will side in our favor because we're about everybody, right? We're about that protected class from the government. Crazy how that works. Now, the children have started lawsuits as well, or at least they have a lawsuit against a school district. And Shawnee County, for whatever reason, that Shawnee area, they've been in the news a lot lately. As you know, that they were in the news when it came to the parade last weekend, and Chris Kobach riding in the Jeep that had the replica of a gun mounted on top of that, and the city of Shawnee apologizing for that, saying that they need to have a city ordinance when it comes to their parades now, because how dare that Chris Kobach or anybody actually ride around in a patriotic Jeep with a mounted replica, not a real gun, but a replica of a gun on there, and how people were in awe as he went by. Oh my gosh, craziness. And how it was a terrible ordeal. Then we see, according to KSN.com, a lawsuit alleges that Shawnee County was holding an immigrant for too long. And Topeka attorneys filed a lawsuit against Shawnee County, violating the rights of an inmate being held in custody on an immigration detainer because they found an illegal immigrant. They were detaining him by the orders of ICE, and they said that he was being held too long, and now the lawsuit's in there. As you know, you have a maximum of 48 hours that you can detain somebody for an illegal immigration detainment until ICE actually charges them and actually takes them into their custody. And whether they hit that 48 hours or not, I don't know. The lawsuit says that Perez Ramirez was convicted in May on 2 misdemeanors involving sexual battery and sentenced to probation. Although he was ordered to be released May 14th, jail officials said that they detained him indefinitely until federal officials could pick him up or release him, and that they had the documentation to allow that to happen. And now the lawsuit's underway, which creates a whole nother fiasco of shenanigans and conversation of how long should we be able to detain somebody if they're an illegal immigrant. They've broken the law, even if they weren't arrested, by the way, for sexual battery, which is sad in itself, of an illegal immigrant, again, creating issues in the community. But if they're an illegal immigrant, then they've broken the law, and we should, in my humble opinion, be able to detain them as long as it takes for ICE to be able to take control of the situation and handle them from there on out. You would think that would be the appropriate response, because they're being charged. See, here's the thing, and I don't want to go down this tangent because I'm trying to lead up to another story here, but here's the tangent that I want to go on. I know local law enforcement, says that they don't have the jurisdiction to be able to arrest somebody or be able to charge them when it comes to illegal immigration, which is why we have different quote-unquote sanctuary cities or sanctuary counties or sanctuary states. Because the local law enforcement, whether it's the city police or whether it's the county sheriff's department, they don't have the ability to do that. And I've advocated for them to have that jurisdiction. Now, they say, no, we don't have the manpower to go start arresting people and go after them. And I'm not advocating for them to go after them. But if they run across somebody, to be able to have the jurisdiction and the ability to charge them as they transfer them over to ICE, which means when you charge them, then you can hold them for as long as you need to until you hand them off to the appropriate administration or the appropriate people. And that's all that I think that we should be able to have. If someone gets arrested for sexual battery, if they get pulled over because they were speeding on the side of the road, if they created, some type of issue, whatever the case was, major or little, and they got stopped and they were discussing with local law enforcement realizes that they're an illegal immigrant. They charge them for whatever local crime that was committed, but then be able to charge them for the illegal immigration status as well, detain them for as long as they need to, and then be able to turn them over to ICE. That would be the appropriate response, because then we could start getting rid of the whole sanctuary city status, unless they openly choose to be a sanctuary area, sanctuary city or sanctuary state or whatever. But a lot of it here in the state of Kansas is not even our fault. We try to detain them, but then we see issues like this. Then we have to worry about litigation, the new American dream of litigation and lawsuits, baby, to where now the ACLU or these Topeka attorneys just see an opportunity. You did it for 48 hours and 1 minute, so therefore now we get to sue you for holding them longer than what they need to be held for. And that's what we have to worry about now, which is why it makes sense why local law enforcement says, yeah, I don't want anything to do with it. I'm out. Is it sad? Absolutely. Is it pathetic? Absolutely. But I understand. Why they don't go after local individuals that may be illegal immigrants, because you can hold them for a maximum of 48 hours and one little slip up or hiccup, and guess what? You have a lawsuit on your hands for detaining them for too long. So that's the build up to the new lawsuit that's happening for Shawnee County as well, as the Kansas School District faces a lawsuit. Shawnee Mission faces a lawsuit alleging a violation of students' free speech rights during a nationwide protest of gun violence last month. The American Civil Liberties Union of Kansas filed the lawsuit Thursday of last week against the Shawnee Mission School District. Some students from the district participated in the nationwide walkout protesting gun violence in April. High school students said that they were given a script for their 17-minute walkout, and an associate principal took cameras away from student journalists. At the middle school, students complained that even their event was cut short because officials had not approved language about gun control or gun violence. So the question I have for you, is this a legit lawsuit? Should the students have free reign to walk out of their school and say whatever they want to and protest however they want to? Or are they still children? They don't necessarily have those rights, and the school district gets to make the rules on whatever they want to when it comes to walkout of their schools. 316-721-8255, the new American dream of litigation and lack of personal responsibility because we can pawn off the blame to somebody else seems to be the way that we go today. Your thoughts on this? 316-721-8255. Line number 1, let's go to the phones. Good morning. What's your name?
It's Wallace.
Wallace, what's happening, sir?
Well, hey, just real quick, you said you don't, on that illegal alien
Yes.
that was detained too long? No, absolutely. We should have people actively going to seek these people out. I mean, if I had a warrant for an unpaid traffic ticket, they'd come to my house and seek me out to get their $5 for the parking ticket.
Sure.
So I have no problem. But the bigger issue here, this free speech thing, we've seen case after case of kids, who wear a questionable T-shirt to school.
Are forced to turn the shirt either inside out or change their shirt.
That's right. And I think it's gone both ways. I think I've seen some schools, like out in California, a guy wore a flag, a shirt with an American flag on it.
Sure.
And that was for like Cinco de Mayo Day, and they made him take his shirt off.
Sure.
But then we've seen courts rule in favor of students, saying, "Look, they have a right to wear a Trump T-shirt. They have freedom of speech."
Mm-hmm.
It's a slippery slope when you give children with incomplete minds that haven't been fully formed the ability to act in a way like this. I mean, you don't want to stifle them. You want them to be expressive. But look, here's the thing.
At the same time, if it's counterproductive. Again, you're at school to learn, and that's why I think that's where
right.
kind of you draw the line when it comes to some of these rules for the walkout. Is you're there to learn. If you're going to do a walkout and miss 17 minutes of class, and you're going to be a quote unquote journalist, and you're going to film this, and you're going to walk out and just protest, then the school should have some say in what you're allowed and not allowed to do with that. You're not an adult. You're not 18, and you were not violating your civil rights in any way, shape, or form. You're there to learn, and if you're not going to learn, then we can charge you tardy. We can do whatever we need to be able to punish you in that sense, or have rules on what you're allowed to do with that walkout.
No, and I agree. I mean, when you're at school, you should be in there learning. Now, if the school sanctions some event, like having a pep rally, but if they want to let kids out, which I find foolish to let them out to protest, like this.
Right.
Well, we have student newspapers, we have student journalists. They should have the ability to, cover a school event like that. Now, again, I think, canceling class in order to make that happen, I think that's foolish. But, this is what's been going on. We've empowered children, and they get the rights, but they don't have the responsibilities.
Right.
And that's dangerous because they only see one side of the ledger. And, I was thinking about some stuff this morning and where we've allowed, it's that term, the soft bigotry of low expectations, where we have a kind of a two-tiered system where we allow certain groups of people extra bonus points because they're a minority. And, now we have these kids, and it starts out like this, and then kids get more emboldened and more emboldened. And
Well, as you mentioned, I mean, it's the lack of responsibility with it. I mean, we need to be taught at a very young age that the decisions you make, you have the right to make those decisions, but every decision that you make has a consequence, either positive or negative, that we have something called cause and effect. And when you do something, there's a repercussion of that, whether it's good or whether it's bad, depending on what decision that you actually make. We don't do that any longer, which is why you said, that they're allowed to go protest and cause all these issues and cause the shenanigans and try and be emboldened because they feel emboldened. They want to be the world changers, but they don't understand the consequence behind it. David Hogg has no responsibility whatsoever, has never had responsibility in his life. And therefore, he feels emboldened to do whatever that he wants to do to try and take guns away and try and even advocate for the repealing of the Second Amendment because he doesn't understand the consequences of what that's actually going to lead to because he doesn't care because he's never had to deal with those consequences before.
And speaking of David Hogg, did you see that tweet? I think it was from the end of last week where he came out and said, do you remember a time when there wasn't a school shooting every week? I don't because I wasn't alive. And there was a guy, Chris Peranto, he was a Benghazi survivor.
Mm-hmm.
military Benghazi survivor. He came out and he basically said, well, I remember that time. And, thanks for pointing out that it's you and your millennial, friends. You're the ones that are shooting up schools. Guns have always been here.
Right.
It's you guys that are doing this. But, where is it's been decades of this liberal nonsense where kids aren't, again, there's no accountability. And this is something I got thinking about this. We have, and this is in every aspect of life, where we have kids that get into college because they're a minority. We have kids that are now adults that when they go to the law enforcement academy, they lower the standard in order to get more minorities in. See, nobody's responsible for anything. We have to change the standard. And to sum it up, I say Democrats have traded in their white sheets and their burning crosses. They've traded all that in for the soft bigotry of low expectations wrapped in a cloak of diversity.
Well, that's a great point, Wallace. I appreciate that. And take it even further, they've traded that in for the new American dream when it comes to litigation. If you don't like what somebody else is doing, if you don't like the way that a decision's made, if you don't like how something's going, then take it to court, sue them, and then be able to change it by force. It's one of those to where if you don't like what somebody else is doing, you just leave them alone and do your own thing. Instead, you force them to go about the way that you want them to based on the litigation. The court's telling them that's what they have to do. Why do you think it was such a big issue when it came to the baker, when it comes to Colorado baking the cake for the LGBTQ members and for the gay wedding that they wanted to have? And they wanted to force, instead of saying, I'll make you the cake, I'm just not going to personalize it that way because I don't feel like I can, but I'll make you the cake, I'll still provide my services to you to some degree. And they said, nope, I'm going to force you to do that because no longer do we have the right to religious freedom in the country. So therefore, we're going to force you to do it, and we're going to take you to court because of that. Thank God the U.S. Supreme Court ended up making that right decision 7-2 by protecting the rights to religious freedom. But that's what their decision was. We're going to take you to court, the new American dream. We don't like it. And instead of going across the street to a different baker that will accept it, and I'll give them my money and I'll give them my services and use their services and give them my hard-earned cash and support that business, instead of doing that, no, I will force you to do so because you disagree with me. I will force you to release that illegal immigrant because you held them too long, because even though they may have broken the law by being here illegally, you're not allowed to detain them. That is against the law, and I will force you to release them so that way they can be accepted into society. I will force you to let kids do whatever they want to without repercussion, without responsibility, because they have that right to do so, and I will force you through the courts, through the judicial system, to tell you on what you can and cannot do. The new American dream, the rights by the courts. It's a really scary and it's a really dangerous situation to actually be in. 7 minutes at the top of the hour. One more break, wrapping up the show today. This is The Voice of Reason.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Welcome back into The Voice of Reason, wrapping up the program today. By the way, the Second Amendment rally that we had over the weekend, that video, I didn't even realize they did record it with a video, but there is a video. It is on YouTube. I shared it onto the KQAM Facebook page, the Voice of Reason Facebook page. I will also post it up onto KQAMradio.com as well, both on the KQAM page along with the Voice of Reason page. So if you want to see the rally, you were not able to make it to see all the speakers. Now, some of the speakers, I guess, did walk outside of the range there because they were kind of meandering about. But if you do want to watch that video of the Second Amendment rally that happened over the weekend, I got to speak at along with other great individuals. We'll have that both on the Facebook pages along with KQAMradio.com, also on the Voice of Reason page at KQAMradio.com. If you go to the website and then you can see the local shows tab, find the Voice of Reason, click on that. You'll see the video. You'll see the weekly blog. You'll see the weekly show guest lineup. You'll see the podcasts on there. It's really cool. A lot of information, a lot of great stuff on that site. Go and check it out, KQAMradio.com. That rally, that video of the rally will be up here in the next couple hours once I'm able to get that posted on there. Love all the conversations, love all the phone calls. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us today. Hopefully waking you up the best way that we know how to do, at least. Hopefully it was a benefit to you. Entertainment, conservatism, intelligence, discussions. That's what we're all about. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is The Voice of Reason. Have a great Tuesday, everybody.